Okay guys, so this is day 2 of congruent chords and arcs. So we're still on 8-5, but we're gonna get into something a little bit different. And so we're only doing 4 problems, but hopefully it makes sense to you. Okay, so given this diagram, you definitely want to try to sketch this out as best as you can. We are trying to find VW. Okay, so VW is this long chord here. I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I have no idea. But I do see a right triangle right here. And right triangles always trigger Pythagorean theorem in my mind. So I know, okay, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where 5 is one of the sides, one of the legs. So that would be 5 squared plus, I don't know this leg, so that's going to be my b. And then the hypotenuse is 13. Okay, so then I'm going to solve this, and I get 25. 5 times 5 is 25, and 13 times 13 is 169. Then I subtract 25 on both sides, and I get b squared equals 144. So you square root it, and I get b equals 12. So right here where the b is, I can actually write 12. In fact, let me erase and just write the 12 there now. But the question was asking for VW, which is all the way across. So if that segment is 12, I know this segment is 12, which means VW is 12 plus 12, so it's 24, right? Now I'm going to clear this off because this next one gets kind of complicated. Now I'm being asked to find the measure of arc YW. So YW is from here to here. And I really have no idea how long that is. In fact, I don't see any angles at all except for this angle right here is 90 degrees, but that's not really related to YW. So this is really confusing. And it just takes a lot of practice. But I know that the arc is related to the central angle, right? They're congruent. So if I knew this angle here, this blue angle, then I would know how big the arc is. And we learned a way to figure out angles, even if we don't know them, using trigonometry, since we have a right triangle here. So I'm going to highlight it nice and bright green. So if I wish I knew this angle x right here, and I know this side is 5 and this side is 13, I can use sine, cosine, or tangent to figure that out. And most students wouldn't even think of this. Honestly, I don't even know how I figured out this problem, because I did look at it for a while and figured like, how do I solve this? So if this is my reference angle, this side is adjacent, and the long one is hypotenuse. So adjacent, hypotenuse, cosine. So I would set it up as cosine of x equals 5 over 13. Because I'm trying to find the angle. I want to get rid of the cosine, so I'm going to do the opposite of cosine, which is cosine -1. If I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other. So now I need to go get a calculator and type that in, and it's going to give me what that angle is. Okay, so I use my phone. My phone is automatically in degrees. Make sure if you get a weird number, just double check that your whatever calculator you're using is in degrees. And then when you type cos -1, sometimes, like on my calculator, what it says is a cos. So sometimes it's called arc cos. That's how you know you're doing it right. But you have to get to those inverse buttons that have the -1 or arc cos. And when I type it in, I get approximately what mine says is 67.38, blah, 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 blah. So I would just round that to be, 67 degrees. Okay. So what that means is this angle is 67 degrees, and if the central angle is 67, then the arc is also 67 degrees. So the answer is straight up 67 degrees. right, moving on to find pH. So pH is this segment here highlighted in red. Then they tell me HK is 30. So H to K, this segment is 30. So I'm just automatically going to cut it in half and write 15 and 15 just to help me, you know, conceptualize the problem. Then I also know PM, so this segment here is 8. So that also tells me that this is 8 here. Okay. Then I kind of orient myself and I say, okay, I know this is 15, PN is 8, and it wants me to find pH. Well, that's a right triangle, so I use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you do 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared to get the hypotenuse. 8 times 8 is 64. 15 times 15 is 225. So you get 289. And when you square root 289, even I don't know that one for sure. 289 square rooted is 17. Yeah. So that means C is 17, which is pH. So that is the answer. All right, now let's change colors. I'm going to clear all this off because I'm pretty sure this next one is going to be a little confusing. So find measure of GJ. Okay, so GJ is this big arc here. I'm like, all right, once again, confusing. If I knew this angle GPJ, I would be able to know that arc because they would be congruent. I don't know that angle. I could estimate, but you're not guaranteed to get the right answer. So I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA again to help me figure out what the angle is. By the way, it's not expected that you guys are experts at this right now. If we were doing this in regular school, we would practice this a lot and you would do a lot of problems. But we're just trying to, you know, refresh your memory on some of this stuff so you don't forget it. So GJ, like I said, is this big arc. So I wish I knew this little angle here, HPN. So I knew that PN, how big was that? So, okay, PM was 8. I know that this is 15, and then I figured out that pH was 17. So the same thing on this side. So I could actually use sine, cosine, or tangent. Since I used cosine before, let's maybe use tangent, opposite, adjacent, tangent. But you really could use any of them. So here's my reference angle, right? If I draw an arrow straight across, 15 is my opposite and 8 is my adjacent. So tangent of x equals 15 over 8, opposite over adjacent. Then I tan -1, so I inverse tan both sides, and if I type that in the calculator, I get, let's see, so what pops up on my calculator is a tan, then I type 15 over 8, and it gets 62 degrees, okay? It's like 61.927, but that rounds up to 62 degrees. So what that tells me is this little, let me change it to a nice bright color so I can show you. Okay, so that means this angle that I'm highlighting in orange is 62 degrees. So this part of the circle is 62 degrees. And so because these are congruent arcs, this arc is also 62. So for GJ, you would do 62 plus 62, which equals 124 degrees. Honestly, if I was estimating, I thought it was going to be 120 degrees. So I was pretty close even with estimating. Okay, I know this is pretty complicated, but We'll upload a Kahoot and a quizzes so you can get extra practice. And like I said, don't stress too much as long as you can kind of follow what I'm doing. You don't have to be able to do this on your own at this level. I just want you to kind of remember how to set up a tangent, how to solve when you have trigonometry, how to do Pythagorean theorem and that kind of stuff. All right, love you guys. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll have a video ready for you for tomorrow.